All right, today we are diving into how Google works. We're going to unpack the core principles that took a student project and turned it into, well, one of the biggest companies on the planet. And listen, this isn't just a history lesson. This is really the playbook for building what comes next. So picture this. It's 2003. An email from a board member lands at Google. The topic? A full-on battle plan to compete with their biggest rival, which they'd codenamed Finland. And in case you're wondering, yeah, Finland was Microsoft. The board wanted a plan, and they wanted it now. But there was this one pretty huge problem. See, what the board was asking for, this traditional MBA-style business plan, was the complete opposite of what was making Google special. That kind of rigid, top-down thinking was everything Google wasn't. And to really get why that old playbook just doesn't work anymore, you have to understand what the most valuable asset is in this new world. It's not about money, it's not about factories, it's a completely new kind of person. So who is this new kind of person? Well, at Google, they call them smart creatives. And no, this isn't just a new name for the old knowledge worker who was a master of one thing. This is a totally different animal. So what exactly makes them tick? Well, imagine someone with serious technical chops, but who also has a nose for business and, a real creative spark. These folks don't just sit around having ideas, they actually build stuff. They're experts at doing. And here's what's so interesting. We're not just talking about skills you can pick up at a weekend workshop. These are like personality traits. Smart creatives are naturally curious. They love to question things, and they aren't scared to take big swings. All the qualities that old-school corporate culture usually tries to crush.
Which, of course, brings up a huge question. If you can't use the old command and control tactics on this new type of employee, what on earth do you do? Well, the answer is you stop trying to manage the people. Instead, you manage the environment around them.
So how do you do that? How do you manage the environment? It all kicks off with the very first rule in the new playbook, culture. And at Google, we're not talking about free food or beanbag chairs. I mean, those are nice perks, sure. But the real culture is all about creating an environment of freedom and empowerment. Let me tell you a great story that shows this in action. One Friday, co-founder Larry Page was getting really annoyed with some bad, irrelevant ads he was seeing in search results. So he just printed them out, scribbled "These ads suck" on the top, and tacked it to a bulletin board in the kitchen. And then he just went home for the weekend. And boom. That just shows you the incredible power of the right culture. There was no meeting, no memo, no task force assigned. Just a group of people who felt empowered, who saw a problem that went against the company's mission, and who decided to fix it on their own time. And that little weekend project, it basically became the engine for Google's entire business. Now, to get that kind of freedom to work, you have to go to war with the old way of doing things, and that means you have to get rid of the hippos. That's the highest paid person's opinion. In a real meritocracy, it doesn't matter who you are. The best idea is the best idea, period. This quote from the former CEO of Netscape just sums up that old hippo mindset perfectly. It's basically saying, sure, I'll look at your data, but if there isn't any, we're doing it my way. Smart creatives will run for the hills in an environment like that. And this idea of culture, it even bleeds into the physical office space. The old way, big corner offices and quiet cubicles, all designed to show off status. The Google way is the opposite. You design for energy. You cram people together, make it a little messy, because that's how you engineer those random, serendipitous conversations that spark amazing ideas. Okay, so if you've got this amazing culture humming along, what does that do to your strategy? I mean, if you accept that your plan is probably going to be wrong, what do you focus on instead? This was Larry Page's actual reaction when someone presented him with a beautiful, detailed 2-year product plan. It just shows you this deep-seated belief that rigid long-term plans don't speed you up, they actually hold you back. The real answers aren't in some project plan, they're in the heads of the people building the thing. So, instead of basing your strategy on market research, which, Henry Ford famously said would have just gotten us faster horses, you have to build it on a real technical insight. You don't ask people what they want. You build something that they never even knew was possible. So what is a technical insight? Well, it's a clever, non-obvious way of using technology to create this huge leap forward. Not just a small improvement, but a massive one. For Google search, the insight was using links on the web to figure out how important a page was. For AdWords, it was ranking ads by how relevant they were, not just who paid the most. It's an advantage that's so foundational, it's hard to copy, and it makes the product itself your best marketing tool. And that leads to another huge shift in thinking. The initial goal isn't to make money right away. The goal is to optimize for growth. In the internet century, you win by building a platform that can grow to serve millions, even billions of people. Because if you get the users, trust me, the revenue will find you later. So here's the big takeaway. Your day-to-day plan, your product roadmap, that stuff is going to be constantly changing. It has to be fluid. But your foundation, the principles of betting on technical insights, designing for massive scale, and trusting your smart creatives, that has to be as solid as a rock. Now, this whole framework isn't just a cool story about one company. It's really a toolkit. It's a new way of thinking for anybody in any field who's trying to build the next great thing. Just think about it. The tools we have now, instant access to information, global connection, basically unlimited computing power, they've made it possible for anyone to build amazing things. These huge, world-changing projects, they're not just for pharaohs and giant corporations anymore. The rules for attracting smart people, for building a culture of freedom, and for betting on real insights, they're all out there for anyone to use. So really, the only question that's left is, what pyramid are you going to build?